So before Tupac passed away, he was trying to help y'all get a record deal. Just take me through that, man. Y'all hearing the news that Tupac got shot.
Yo, it really pissed me off, man. You know what I mean? I think when he got shot, I was back on the East Coast. You know what I mean? I was back. I remember coming back to the East Coast. You know what I mean? And what's real crazy is when he got shot, and being that I knew him, and at that point he was like a brother. You know what I mean? I think it was cool, and I liked his spirit and the way he treated us. I remember hearing it on the radio one time, man. True story. My man Molly Mall was on the radio, and he was basically like, well, there you go. If you live by the gun, you die by the gun. And I remember that night trying to call a radio station 100 times, man. I would just want to call and cuss that dude out so bad, man. I couldn't get through. I mean, that's how pissed I was. You know what I mean? I want to cuss Molly Mall the fuck out that night. You know what I mean? But I couldn't get through. You know what I mean? Because maybe they was still just on some East Coast shit in they head. So they basically, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. You basically saying good for you. You know what I mean? That's the AKA. That's how I took it. And being that at that point, I had a little relationship with Pop. I was just so pissed because he was just, matter of fact, and the next day or the second day, that's why I went and got a nose ring. Because I did it in the honor of Tupac. I never had a nose ring before. You know what I mean? So, I didn't want to get a tat, so I just got a nose ring. That's the reason why I wear a nose ring, because of Pac. You know.
Do you think Tupac joining Death Row was his downfall?
Nah, because at the point, when somebody's in jail, you want to get out of jail. You know what I mean? So it could never be a downfall. You know what I mean? I've never been to prison, but I'm quite sure if somebody come to you and say they can get you out of prison, it's the gift and the curse. You know what I mean? I think, at that point, they was a force to be reckoned with, man. Musically, come on, let's keep it there, all right? Musically, yo, they was a force, man. Come on, you talking Dog Pound, you talking Snoop, Dre, Pop, Lady of Rage. I mean, you talking, they was like, woo. And they had some of the best music. Because Dr. Dre, at that point, his music was so clear. You know what I mean? Versus a lot of East Coast had, we had some joints, but a lot of sampling. But Dre shit, man, listen, it was good for hip hop until it wasn't good for hip hop. You know what I mean? For a minute, I can remember that, I don't know what magazine cover it was. It could have been a Source cover when they all just had their headshots with the black on and.
Yeah, I think that was Vibe, right?
Vibe, it could have been. Like I said, don't get me. Man, you know what I mean? Just seeing stuff like that was like, because they did it on a level where East Coast wasn't doing it like that. You know what I mean? But just to give it back to the East Coast, but that's when I tipped my hat to Puff. Because Puff had bigs in them looking like, even though they wasn't selling records like Pac, but man, listen. And I think at some point too, that's where a little jealousy was, was coming in too. Cause Big was that dude, man, for us, man. You know what I mean? For us, man, Big and Jay, but Big, we're going to keep it on. Basically, we're talking about the East and the West Coast. Big was that dude for us, man. You know what I mean? He the one that got us to put these joints back on, man. The NY hats, man. You know what I mean? He was just that dude. He talked so slick. His words, his rhythm was so slick, man. We was really proud to be from the East Coast again. Because it went through a period when we wasn't proud. Not saying that we wasn't great groups, because, Wu-Tang and all them great groups.
Yeah, you had Wu-Tang,
you know what I mean?
Nas.
Don't get me wrong. But I'm just talking about somebody that went up there to compete with that West Coast stuff on a high level of records. That was big. You know what I mean? That was big. You know what I mean? And he made us so proud. You know what I mean? We're still proud. I'm still proud. You know what I mean?
So you think it was some jealousy between Death Row and Bad Boy,
Of
like
course.
Biggie popping
Of
off,
course.
getting hot and all that. You think
Of
Death Row
course.
was a little jealous of that?
Of course, I think because it even came out of Pac's mouth to a certain extent. He's like, man, come on, man. Y'all think this dude is Big Papa? He ain't no Papa. He's this. He ain't that. You know what I mean? To me, for that one little window, it seemed like a little jealousy, because what he was basically saying is like, I can't believe y'all buying into this. But that's how fly he was. Now, whether he didn't start out as a Big Papa, but after you heard a couple of them records and all of that, he was Big Papa. You know what I mean? Because I remember when he first came to our studio, we had the mic check show. We had a show, the Furious Five had a mic check show on Hot 97, and he came up there. And this is before he really blew. Yo, I was just like, that's Biggs. You know what I mean? I just couldn't visualize that a month or two from now, he going to be the biggest dude in the planet. And that's what he became, Big Papa. When I seen him, he wasn't Papa. I mean, not lyrically, I ain't talking about, you know what I mean? But he wasn't that dude that had that aura, you know what I mean? When he came up to the Mic Tech show. And after a while, yo.
So, from your point of view, what do you think the demise was of Death Row?
Oh, man. You know, I think, you know, just being an artist, speaking from an artist perspective, I think Suge should have did all what he could have did to keep Dr. Dre happy. Because if Dr. Dre is happy, and all of the artists love working with Dr. Dre, you're going to get the best from the artist, and he going to give you the best from that. And then that's the glue. Once you let him go down and be like, oh, anybody could do tracks. No, anybody can't. Anybody ain't Dr. Dre. I think that was the true demise of Death Row.
How do you feel about people that say Suge Knight put a battery in Tupac back and he was a bad influence on Tupac?
Well, I think that, you know, first of all, we got to give the respect to Pac, because he is a grown man. You understand what I'm saying? You have to, you know, it ain't nobody that could be that intelligent that don't know what they doing. They might get off a track, but he's a grown man. So I don't think nobody forced Tupac to do, you know what I mean, to act a certain way. I think because Suge was running around with a certain set or whatever, and Pac just wanted to be the little brother, like, yo, I ride with you, I fuck with you. Money over bitches, M.O.B. I think that's what it was. You know what I mean? He was just trying to show some loyalty back to Suge. And maybe could he took it too far? It all depends on who you ask. But I would never think that Suge had the influence over Pac to like, yo, you go up there and smack that dude and he do it. Nah, Pac is way too intelligent for that. He was just trying to show love to Suge back. You know what I mean? And it could have went too far. And not knowing once you showing love on that level is rival gang people. You know what I mean? So that's where a little of the friction could have came. You know what I mean? Because one thing about Pac, it don't matter whether you Crip, Blood, whatever, SA, whatever, everybody love Pac. You know what I mean? But when you step into that realm, it's almost like, damn, man, I don't want you to have to do this, man. I love this dude, man. You know what I mean? So it was a real weird little thing like with that, because everybody loved Pac. It ain't like, you know, because he was with Death Row and Suge might have been Blood and none of the Crips didn't like him. Everybody loved Pac. Everybody in the East Coast loved Pac. You know what I mean? They can say what they say and like feel like, all right, bet we got to take a stand because he's saying this about Biggs and we from the East, we ride with Big. But come on, man. You can say what you want. Mostly every great artist come from the East Coast, including Jay-Z, and everybody was fans of Pac. Everybody. You can't front on that. That's just like trying to front on the origin of hip-hop. We didn't have nothing to do with it. It's like no matter what happened, economically, we might not be on a certain level, but you can't front that Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and have the impact that we had on the game. You know what I mean? You just can't front on that. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with Pac. You can't front on that.
How you feel about all the conspiracy surrounding Tupac death? Like people saying that Puff Daddy had something to do with it.
Well, you
Suge
know,
Knight had something to do with it. The government had something to do with
yeah,
it.
but let me tell you this, man. Yeah, about that, it just showed you how massive Pac is, how massive he became. He became so, that's just like Elvis. There's some people out here that still think Elvis is alive because he had that type of effect. And it just, to the average person mind, it just couldn't be like so cut and dry. Somebody ran up and shot him. It's just too, like, no, not to our hero. That happened to a crackhead, but not to Pac. So with Pac, you have to have the layers. You know what I mean? I know why, because he was preaching out the Black Panther. Oh, I know why, because Suge thought he was leaving the label. I know why, because Puff couldn't make a move if he was still, you know what I mean? You had to do that. Cause Pac, I'm gonna tell you, out of probably all hip hop artists on the planet Earth, I think that Tupac had the most influence out of everybody. Everybody. Now, when I say influence, I'm not saying like if you put us in a context of like us help creating hip hop. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about after the game was gone and somebody did something, and millions of kids and artists want to be Pac. And if you can't be him, you want to just to grab some of his stuff. You know what I mean? He got the biggest influence out of everybody. That's why even like after 10 years after he died, every year he put out music or he'd sell millions and millions of copies. He was selling more copies than people that was alive putting out records. I mean, if anybody could really grasp that and understand that he was selling more records than people that was alive. That's how much people just still want to hold on to him and have a piece of him. You know what I mean?